So, okay, guys. So, the day of the storm. I mean, if you hang around here long enough, I'm as much about the communication and philosophy of weather forecasting as I am about, the nuts and bolts details of the models. I mean, anybody can look at a model and say the QPF is 1 inch, multiplied by 10, you get 10 inches. That's what armchair forecasters do.
SMS.
And of course, we're always trying to dig deeper here. And so yesterday, the last 2 days, the 48, 72 hours before the storm is where you have to kind of position yourself, wrap your head around the setup. What are the features pro and con for a big snowstorm? And I think we've beat all those to death the last couple of days, so I don't need to rehash them. And the goal is always to issue a first set of numbers that you can live with, that has the best chance of verifying, not forecasting an extreme scenario one way or the other, but positioning yourself in the middle where the most likely outcome is, what is supported by either what you think is the best model or the model consensus, and also pattern recognition and experience. Now that's tough for students, but for people like Dr. Sikora and I, you look at 20, 30 years of forecasting experience, you've seen a lot of these events and you kind of almost have an instinct. And that's something you guys will develop over the years as well. All of those go together to make a forecast. It's not just reading one model and converting it into snowfall. Now that the forecast was issued yesterday, what we issued here was 6 to 12 as a kind of a broad brush for Lancaster. 12 in the heavier spots, maybe 6 as you go towards Harrisburg. We want to kind of stick to that range, until it's obvious it's going to bust. Is it going to be twice that much snow and you have to bump it up? Is it going to be half that much snow, you have to bump it down? But if you're in the ballpark, I always think it's foolish to make a big change, to introduce a whole new set of numbers. One little finesse we made this morning was to change the 6 to 12 to an 8 to 12. Just being a little more confident that there was going to be some good snow on both the front and the back end of the storm. Could it be 14? Yes. Could it still be 6? Yes. But the 8 to 12, again, position yourself in the middle and don't make a big change until it's clear it's going to be a bust. Again, a lot of forecasters out there, TV, weather service, and armchair people, flip and flop with every model run. They're suicidal when the one run comes in and it's going to be flattened out to sea, and then they're pumping their numbers when the next run comes in and the QPF is printing out 2 inches for whatever reason. And again, we just kind of, steady hand at the wheel and issue a good forecast and stay with it until it's clear something's going to go wrong. And if you've been looking at the models, I've been spending all day and a lot of last night looking at them, I still don't see any reason that we'd want to change a good forecast of 8 to 12. So what we want to focus on is trying to give decision makers and people that have to travel and such tomorrow more information about how the storm's going to evolve. We're not going to change the numbers, but we can provide better detail on the storm. So let's go through some of those details. First of all, the leading edge of snow is now in North Carolina. Obviously on radar it's appearing farther north, but of course we have a very dry air mass. We hit 0 this morning here at Millersville. Dew points are still in the single digits. Very dry air mass. Snow's going to appear on radar an hour or 2 or maybe even 3 before it reaches the ground. So I wouldn't be shocked if snow is on radar over us by 8 or 9 p.m. and then the first flakes are 10 or 11 p.m. and then accumulating snow around midnight, or give or take. And then phase 1 of the storm late tonight. Phase 1 of the storm late tonight. You see it about 6, where am I at here? Okay, by 9Z, that's what, 4 a.m. local time, you start to see positive vorticity advection, you see defluent height lines aloft, both those contributing to upward motion, and to add to the mix, as we get towards daybreak tomorrow, if we look in the lower levels, you can see quite nicely strong easterly flow. There you see 45 knots aimed pretty much from the due east right at Millersville. So you have good low-level warm advection. Heavy snow here occurs when you have diffluence aloft and strong warm advection at the surface. So everything lines up for late tonight there being a few hour period. Maybe it's 3 or 4 a.m. to 7 or 8 or 9 a.m. where it could be snowing at 1 inch to 2 inches an hour here. If that fails to materialize, you start to worry about your forecast. But that is a part of the storm, that phase 1, that we can be pretty confident in. And what I've been communicating this morning to decision makers, even I've talked to Millersville officials who are thinking about making a decision tonight before bed on whether they will close or delay, rather than wait till the morning. All those type of people, that's very useful information to know that there's going to be that first solid, moderate to heavy period of snow heading into the morning rush hour. If it verifies, and I think it will, it would be a terrible morning to be out trying to drive to campus. So that's kind of phase 1. Phase 2 of the storm, that warm advection, piles in warm air from the east and erodes. We don't have a classic cold air damming situation. We have lots of cold air, and it's never going to get eroded back in here. But if you're in the eastern, southeastern third of Pennsylvania, certainly Harrisburg, York, south and east, it'll probably get eroded to the point that you at least mix over to sleet, freezing rain, and maybe more than mix, maybe actually go over to a several hour period of sleet and freezing rain. Now, that's a tough call to say for sure at this point, because it comes down to just a couple degrees, not at the surface. The surface we're cold enough for frozen, but it's a couple degrees, a few thousand feet above the ground, which we all know the models, aren't perfect to a degree. Just having a little stronger upward motion can give you enough dynamic cooling to overcome the warm advection, or if the precipitation and the omega lets up a little bit, you can warm up more than expected. But you look here, let me just find, where are we? Right there, 15Z, that's 10 a.m. tomorrow. The 925 zero line is spot right over Millersville. If we go down and look at the, and by the way, we're looking at the NAM here. The models are generally converging. They still have individual differences, but they're all pretty close. And say what you will about the NAM, it might stink at 72 hours out from a storm, but inside of 24 hours, the NAM and the GFS have done well this winter. They've been crazy, and the European often beats it 3, 4, 5, 6 days out, but you get inside of a day, these models are not horrible. So let's just look at the NAM here to keep it simple. So here at, that's 10 a.m., you can see there's the 925 warming, and you can also see some warming just above 850, where you're right. So that's a sleet sounding, right? Where you're just teetering right on the edge. It could be back and forth between snow and sleet, depending, as waves of stronger and weaker upward motion go by. Okay, there's 18Z. You see you're actually later in the day beginning to cool in the low levels. You see the winds turning almost north-northeast in the afternoon. So that initial shot of warming that shoots in here in the lowest 5,000 feet late morning, midday, as the storm is developing and the winds are going more out of the north, you start to cool back down. So in our forecast, we need to communicate late morning, maybe into early afternoon, a period of mixed or plain sleet and freezing rain. Of course, if that materializes, that reduces accumulations a little bit. Doesn't materialize, it doesn't reduce it. And then you get into late in the day, so we have 2 phases of the storm. So the moderate to heavy snow to start, the changeover period, and then phase 3 of the storm is late in the day. You see heading into the evening, negatively tilted trough, actually closing off. It's not going to stay closed off long with all this energy piling in, but all it needs to do is close off for 3 hours or so, and that's enough. And if we look at 700 millibars, you got 700 millibar low going pretty much right over Delmarva. That is just about textbook perfect to put, that wraparound band, that deformation band of snow right over, Allentown, Reading, Harrisburg, Lancaster, maybe even down into Washington, probably down into Washington, D.C. It'll be that wraparound band. And that could be a 3 to 6 hour period of a ½ inch to 1 inch an hour. So there's potential for another 3 to 6 inches with phase 3 of the storm. And so that time frame for that would be kind of 3 in the afternoon, maybe till 9 or 10 at night. I mean, that's kind of hard to say, just how quickly this storm evolves. But sometime late afternoon, early evening, And that's something new we didn't really have well expressed in the morning forecast. I think we talked about snow showers lingering into the evening. Now maybe you want to talk about, snow in the morning, mixing or changing to sleet and freezing rain, late morning, midday, changing back to a period of snow, late afternoon and evening. So that's phase 3 of the storm. So if we get 3 to 6 from phase 1 and 3 to 6 from phase 3, there's your 6 to 12. If you get a little more in there, you could be 8 to 14 or 8 to 12. So again, there's no reason to really change the forecast. And if what is the worst case scenario? If you asked me, well, if it stays all snow, no changeover, and if the death band, that late afternoon, evening band, lingers over us longer, maybe instead of another 3 to 6, it's another 4 to 8. So that would be the scenario, which I think is an outlier scenario, where Millersville could end up with, say, 15 or 16 inches. But again, we don't forecast extremes. You could make the argument the other direction. What if that easterly flow pushes the changeover line in here by 6 a.m.? And what if the death band fails to materialize the way we think it will in the afternoon? You could make an argument we only get on that front end, 3 to 5, and then maybe an inch on the end, and you struggle to get 4 to 6 out of this storm. So again, those are the extremes. We're in the middle. We still see a good argument for keeping the middle ground. Don't change the forecast, just finesse the storm details. So that's where we're at right now. Sakura, comments? Pretty much agree?
Yeah.
Agree? State College, over under 6.
What phase you have the least confidence in?
I have most phase 2, the changeover phase. That's always the uncertainty. There are a lot of events where you go into them and you'd swear it's not going to change, and it does. I mean, these storms like to change. If any of you grew up in southeastern PA, you know how much they like to change. When you have a 50 knot east wind off the Atlantic, these storms like to change. So, but and I think it will. I would be really surprised if we didn't at least mix in sleet. I guess the best or the big question is, do we just mix in a little sleet and then it's right back to snow, or is it a full-on 6-hour period of sleet and freezing rain? I want to point one other thing out to you. Here's phase 1 of the storm, okay? Time height cross section, so you can see here's your really very rich moisture in the atmosphere. That's when that best omega comes in, when you have both warm advection and affluence aloft contributing to upward motion. This is when we said you get an inch or 2 an hour of snow late tonight, early tomorrow morning. This is the -15 line, perfect for dendritic crystal growth, so everything lines up beautifully. Here's phase 2 and phase 3 of the storm. What do we see there that would concern you if you're a snow fanatic?
Green.
Well, the green, that's liquid moisture for sure, but what else? What about the -15 line? You don't see a lot of moisture, nor a lot of, the upward motion is down lower if you look at the omega progs. And when you see this -15 line, that temperature, what is it, -12 to -18 is the best, but 15 is a good average.
Yeah.
If you want good, accumulating, efficient snowfall, you want to have this. And that's what we have in the morning. What we have in the midday, this is that period where we think it could be sleet and freezing rain, or maybe snizzle, snow and drizzle mixed. If it really lets up, it could just be a, is that a Penn State term, snizzle?
Should be a meat horn.
Sakura and I both say that, right?
Plus
That's
snizzle.
That's a good answer.
So, and then here you do see it getting up into that cooler zone. That's that wraparound period where, we think you could get a ½ an inch to an inch an hour for several hours late afternoon. But, this type of thing, you could end up with a lot of precip that you see on radar that it's getting to the ground is very inefficient snow, a mix, a snow drizzle mix. It's tough to accumulate much. So, yeah, I have lower confidence in 2 and 3 and highest confidence in phase 1. So, any other comments, Cora?
Snow gets snow.
Huh? So what do you say, State College over under 6?
You already bet. You gave me 6 and over.
I gave you 6 and over, that's right.
Man.
We'll see. What's the over-under here? 10 inches, right? Don't you think? When we talk over-under, it's like if you had to pick a middle number, like, where
I would've said
the
18.
event's going to break one way or the other.
I'll go
Huh?
I would go lower than 10.
Would you go lower than 10?
Yeah, given that phase 2 event? I mean, it's
think
becoming
eight.
clear now that it is.
I'd say
Yeah.
I thought 8 would be the number.
8 is a better bet.
Yeah, I mean, the over-under number should be the middle of your range.
Right.
You know, so,
Well, yeah.
our range was 6 to 12, we changed it to 8 to 12 this morning. You know, it's pretty much the same range, it changes the over-under from 9 to 10, so, not a big deal. But again, I think, for those of you going into forecasting as a career, these events where they're very public, very visible, you know, everybody's talking about, these are the events that you really can make or break or shape your career in terms of, nobody gets them all right. You know, everybody busts, you know, we've all done it. If you're in this business long enough, you'll have some busts that really hurt. But people that follow the weather for years and have local TV personalities or local forecasters that they listen to, they are smart enough to know your track record. You know, Peyton Manning can have a bad game, but you know his track record. And that's what people will learn about meteorologists. Are these guys, is this guy someone who's always changing his mind, or is he someone that issues a solid forecast, sticks with it, maybe makes one change? I was saying yesterday, when I issue my first set of numbers, I always issue them with my second set of numbers in mind. And that's a great strategy. Instead of just looking at everything and issuing numbers, go the next step and say, if it becomes worse one way or the other, what would be the next set of numbers? So yesterday when we put out 6 to 12, well, if we would have needed to, if something happens, we come in tomorrow, it's raining at 6 a.m., we can lower our numbers to, you know, 3 to 6 or 4 to 8. Or if, you know, it looks like phase 2 snow, if it looks like we're just going to get, you know, killed, we can go 12 to 16 or 12 to 18. So you know what your second set of numbers are. And that's why, you know, and I think the National Weather Service does a nice job. You know, they provide a great service. But one issue I have, a lot of their offices, with every new shift, every 6 hours, 8 hours, they tweak their numbers. It'll be like one, you know, forecast it's 5 to 7, and the next one it's 4 to 8, and you know the next shift comes in and changes it to 3 to 6. And before the storm started, there's been 4 different sets of numbers issued for your county, and that has the effect on people that these guys are always changing their mind, you know, and that just feeds the ideas that meteorologists are always wrong and aren't dependable or whatever. So
The offices seem to never coordinate with each other either.
well, they try to coordinate, but sometimes they don't blend together as nicely as they should. You know, where there's, you know, we see that with Lancaster and Chester County. I personally think Lancaster County should probably be in a Philadelphia central warning area. You know, so there's often a discontinuity there. But that is what it is. That's just the nature of the way the offices are broken up.
Do we
So,
see snow on Friday then too? The afternoon, evening? Do we see a little period
well,
of snow?
that clipper, that kicker clipper comes through, and every run's been a little different with it, but it's this thing right here. So you see it sharpening up. We get some nice vorticity advection coming in Friday afternoon. Here's the problem. I think we're like 37 degrees Friday afternoon, or somewhere. I forget. What do we have on the clipboard for Friday afternoon?
34 to
34 to 38. So we're above freezing Friday afternoon. So that thing comes in with some light snow or light snow showers. It could be mixed with some rain. If you look at the temperature profile, it's kind of marginal, the lowest 5,000 feet. Now, as that comes through, there is a pretty good surge of cold air. You know, there's essentially an Arctic front that swings through. So maybe you get some mixed rain snow showers early Friday evening that turn over to snow showers. It's one of these situations, obviously, where the mountains can get a couple of inches, and down here, probably not so much. And depending which model you look at, there's even another little clipper, this guy, that swings through over the weekend, which could give you a little something depending on where it tracks. And then if you look farther out, there's actually a warm front that comes through, a significant warm front next week. But warm fronts, when you got this on the ground, well, I'm not so much worried about flooding, but I'm worried about snow to drizzle with fog. You know, you can get a couple of inches of snow out of a warm front, and then get drizzle and fog. And yeah, if you had a heavy rain event, flooding would obviously be a factor too, but I don't see that. So, okay, well, I'll let the noon shift get going, and if anybody wants to chat further.
Eric, when was the last time we